Welcome to Happy, Healthy, Whole, and Rich, where faith meets action and transformation is non negotiable. I'm Tina Brinkley Potts, and I believe now is the time to step boldly into your power, walk in divine wisdom, and claim the life you were meant to live. Each episode, I'll bring you real, unfiltered truth because this world needs leaders who refuse to shrink. Let's get it. I want to start today by naming something that a lot of people are feeling but not saying out loud. You have been watching the AI headlines. You've seen what it can do. You have maybe sat in a meeting where someone walked in with a ChatGPT output and said, "Look what this can do in seconds." And somewhere in the back of your mind, a quiet voice started asking a question you didn't want to say out loud. Am I next? Is everything I've spent years, decades, building inside myself about to become irrelevant? Is the knowledge I carry, the judgment I've developed, the mastery that makes me exceptional at what I do, is that about to be replaced by a machine? I want you to stay with that feeling just for a moment. Not because I want you to be afraid, but because I want you to understand what that fear is actually telling you. That fear is not a sign that you are losing. That fear is a sign that you have always known, somewhere deep, that whatever you carry has value, real value, enormous value. And the fear is rising because for the first time in your working life, something is threatening to take it without compensating you for it. That is not just a career fear. That is a spiritual signal. And today, we're going to walk all the way through it. From the fear to the truth to the future that is already waiting for you on the other side. What you were given was never meant to be buried. I want to open with a parable that I think has been misread by almost everyone who's ever heard it. Matthew 25, the parable of the talents. Matthew 25, 14 through 15. For it is just like a man about to go on a journey who called his servants and entrusted his possessions to them. To one he gave 5 talents, to another 2, to another 1, each according to his own ability. Now, most of us were taught this parable as a story about money, about investment, about financial stewardship. And yes, it is that. But I want you to hear something deeper in it today. The master did not give every servant the same amount. He gave each one according to their own ability, which means the talent was not random. It was assigned. It was specific. It was calibrated to what each person was capable of carrying and multiplying. And what happened to the servant who buried his talent, who wrapped it up and hid it in the ground because he was afraid? He lost even what he had. Your expertise is a talent in both senses of that word. It was given to you on purpose. And you were never meant to bury it inside someone else's organization for a salary and call that stewardship. For hundreds of years, we have operated in a labor economy that was built on exactly that transaction. Show up, give your time, give your output, get paid, go home. And the most valuable thing you brought, the knowledge, the judgment, the mastery, the wisdom that took decades to develop, stayed in the building when you clocked out, owned by the organization, not by you. That was never God's design for your talent. That was the design of an economic system that benefited from you not knowing the difference. I've been living this since before it had a name. I want to tell you my story because I think it matters for what I'm about to say. I have not worked a traditional job since 2004, maybe 2005 at the latest. For the last 2 decades, I've operated almost entirely from the knowledge in my head, from home mostly, a few times in an office, a few times on site. I spent 7 months in Atlanta once, helping a company restructure their entire operation. But I went there because the knowledge was needed, and I got paid for what I knew, not just for showing up. Right now, I have 12 of 18 income streams active, and every single one of them is built on my expertise, on what I know, on the methodology I developed over 30 years of generating revenue for other businesses across corporate finance, home health, entertainment, and automation. I did not build those income streams from a job. I built them from my knowledge. And I want you to understand, I was doing this before it had a name, before there was a framework, before there was a system. I was living the knowledge asset economy 2 decades before anyone called it that. And here's what I also want you to know. I was wired for this from childhood. I am talking about 6th grade. I have loved technology since I was a little girl in a way that I could not explain and nobody in my world could quite make sense of. I just knew that it was mine, that it was connected to something I was supposed to do. I didn't know then that it was an assignment, but I know now. Proverbs 22:29. Do you see someone skilled in their work? They will serve before kings. They will not serve before officials of low rank. Skill was always meant for the highest rooms, not because of ego, because of design. What you have mastered, truly mastered, was never meant to stay at the level it started. It was meant to be elevated, to be multiplied, to open doors that smaller things cannot open. My skill opened those doors, not perfectly, and definitely not without struggle. Not without seasons where I wondered if I had read the assignment wrong. But the skill kept working. The knowledge kept creating, because that is what it's designed to do. And what I'm building now, the knowledge royalty system, no net worth at a corporate level, is not a new idea. It is the infrastructure for something I have been living quietly in my home for 20 years. We're just going to make it the standard. I want to talk about AI directly because I know some of you are not just afraid of losing your job to it. Some of you have been told or have started to believe that there is something spiritually wrong with it, that it's dangerous, that it's ungodly, and that we should resist it. And I want to tell you about the devil's horse. Reverend Ike, one of the most powerful prosperity teachers this country has ever produced, used to say this in his sermons, that when the automobile was first introduced, many pastors stood at their pulpits and called it the devil's horse, a machine built by the enemy, a tool of corruption and speed that would lead the people astray. Now, almost every one of those pastors or their successors drives an expensive devil's horse, probably a nice one. Could it be that we label things we don't understand as evil? Could it be that fear of the unfamiliar has always dressed itself up as discernment? The printing press was called dangerous. The telephone was called an instrument of the devil. The internet was called a portal to darkness. And every single one of those technologies was eventually used to spread the gospel, build ministries, connect communities, and generate generational wealth for people who had the wisdom to understand what they were holding. I'm not going to stand here and tell you AI is all good. It is not. There are people using it for greed. There are people using it to manipulate, to extract, and to deceive. We cannot stop that. Darkness will always find a tool. Daniel 12:4. But you, Daniel, shut up the words and seal the book until the time of the end. Many shall run to and fro, and knowledge shall increase. Knowledge is increasing. That was prophesied. People are running in every direction, some towards wisdom, some towards profit at any cost. We cannot stop the increase. We were never asked to. What we were asked to do is to keep our integrity, to challenge those who are doing things for greed, to influence a better way, to be the ones who bring consciousness into the disruption instead of being swept away by it. Jeremiah 29:11. For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord. Plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future. The plans were already in place. My passion for technology was planted in me in the 6th grade for a reason. Your expertise was developed over decades for a reason. This particular moment in history where knowledge is becoming the most valuable economic asset on the planet is not by accident. It's an appointment. And Michael Singer says something in the Untethered Soul that I come back to again and again when I feel the pull to resist what is happening around me. He says, the only way to inner freedom is through the one you're with. If you don't like the situation you're in, that's fine. Work to change it. But do not resist the reality of the moment. The moment you resist, you have lost your clarity. And without clarity, you cannot influence anything. I am not resisting AI. I'm bringing clarity to it. I am saying, here's how we make sure the people whose knowledge is being used get compensated. Here is how we make sure the organization that benefits from expertise honors the person it came from. Here's how we build a system where technology elevates human worth instead of erasing it. That is not resistance. That is influence. And influence requires that you stay rooted while everything moves. I want to close the teaching part of today's episode with something that I believe with everything in me. I believe that God is using this moment, this disruption, this shift, this knowledge economy that is replacing the labor economy, to call us back to something we were always meant to be. Creators. Genesis 1:27, Ecclesiastes 9:10. So God created mankind in his own image. In the image of God, he created them. Whatever your hand finds to do, do it with all your might. You were made in the image of a God who created, not a God who clocked in, not a God who punched a time card and waited for Friday, a God who looked at what he made and called it good, a God who rested not from exhaustion, but from completion. The labor economy asks you to separate your creativity from your productivity, to show up and produce, but leave the best of your thinking at the door, to be efficient, not inspired, to be consistent, not original. The knowledge economy, done right, asks something completely different. It asks you to bring all of yourself, your wisdom, your frameworks, your judgment, your story, the full weight of everything you have learned and lived and built. And it says, that is the asset. That is what has value. The future of work is not more hustle. It is more you. More of the creative, deliberate, purposeful version of you that was there before the grind taught you to suppress it. I start every morning slowly. I know some of you know this about me. Before I open a laptop, before I check a message, before I respond to anything, I sit, I meditate, I journal. I let the morning be mine before it becomes anyone else's. And that's not laziness. That is alignment. That is me operating from the image of a creator God who designed rest and creativity into the rhythm of existence before he designed labor into it. And I genuinely believe, that the knowledge economy, the knowledge royalty model, the future of work that I'm helping to build is going to create the conditions for more people to live that way, to work from their creativity instead of their desperation, to generate income from their wisdom instead of just their hours, to have slow mornings because their knowledge is working even when they are not. That is happy, that is healthy, that is whole, and yes, that is rich. I want to close by coming back to my story because I do not want it to just be inspiration. I want it to be evidence. Since 2004, I've built my life on my knowledge. 12 active income streams right now. All of them rooted in what I know and how I think. I have managed world-famous artists using asset management principles. I've built and sold a home health agency. I executed IPO due diligence independently while employed full-time. The company sold for $24 million. I co-executive produced an award-winning television series. I've helped businesses across industries generate revenue using the systems in my head. I did not do that from a job. I did that from my knowledge. And I have been doing it quietly, from home mostly, for 20 years. While the labor economy kept telling people that the only safe path was a salary, while everyone was waiting to be told their worth by a performance review. The knowledge asset economy is not a prediction. It's not a trend. It is the reality that this woman from Dover, Delaware, has been living for 2 decades. We are just going to make it the standard. If today's episode stirred something in you, if you felt the fear I named at the beginning starting to shift into something that feels more like possibility, I want you to follow that feeling. Your knowledge is an asset. It was always an asset, and you were given it on purpose, for a purpose, to multiply it, not to bury it in someone else's organization and hope they notice. Complete the claim. That's what we do here. If this episode stirred something in you, please share it. We must be prepared for where this economy is going to go. And I believe it can go to a place where your knowledge is rewarded instead of extracted and for somebody else's profit. Again, until the next time, this is Happy, Healthy, Whole, and Rich. And you can find me at TinaBrinkleyPotts.com. And let's grow together. Head over to happyhealthyWholeRich.com for more powerful teachings and join the movement. Remember, your breakthrough is waiting, but you have to show up. Until the next time, stay happy, healthy, whole, and rich.